everybody, welcome back. Well, we finally got to the twiddly bit of the exhaust, so we're going to do that today. Long time coming, but here it is. Had a little flurry of subscribers, so yet again, welcome, and hope you enjoy everything. Right, exhausts. Well, as I say, I'm going to do the middle one now, and I've had a lot of comments about that. So I've taken what you said to heart. I think going into two on one side and one on the other side, although it's not going to be perfect from a exhaust point of view, I don't really think it would make that much difference that it would be noticeable. But what we're going to do is we're going to split it off and send it to both pipes. But that's going to present a couple of problems, so let me show you them. Right, you maybe won't believe this, but I've actually got a plan. Now then, where's it gone? There's our middle bit to go in there, right? Now, as you remember, I've got to take a piece out of this, because otherwise it won't go down nicely in line with the other two. So my plan is to bring it down and then split it down here. And what I'm going to do, I haven't decided to do it, whether to do it with the short ones or the long 45s, but what I'm going to do is mark that halfway and cut it. Same on both, so that when I put them together, it's going to be the 1.5 inch diameter there, and they're going to split off like that. So that was fine. So I was looking at it and thinking of that. Then the other day, I was gossiping on the phone, and I was sitting where you are, and it suddenly struck me, the oil filter goes on there, and I remembered it was a big oil filter. So I got it. I'm glad I thought of it. And when that goes on, look at that. See how that sticks out there? That's actually touching it. And of course it takes up a lot of this space in the bottom where I thought I was going to be able to come through. So looking at that and all the fiddly bits, I decided the only way I can do this is with the bike upside down. So what I'm going to do, I mean, we've come to the end of our dry build. The airbox and that was the last thing. So what I'm going to do is take the wheels out, take the forks out, everything off, so that I can turn it upside down, and then we can easily work on this split and where we're going to put it into these other two pipes. Or who knows, when we get to have a really good look at it, I might say sod this and go back to my original plan, because I'll be honest, this isn't going to be that easy to get all these pipes to go right, and you've badgered me into it, so if it goes wrong, it's your fault. So let me strip this, and next time when you see it, it'll be upside down. I started stripping everything, and I thought I'd show you this because it's something that's somewhat different on the Commando. The swinging arm here, it's got bushes in, but instead of putting grease in, you actually put oil in. You put like gearbox oil in, the heavy grade EP 140. I started taking this out before I thought I'd film it for you. But over in this end here, there's a cover goes on, pardon me, with a long thin bolt that goes through, and that has a grease nipple on it. But it's not, as I say, for grease, it's for like heavy gearbox oil. So the inside, once you've taken that little end cover off and the threaded rod out that holds it on, the inside of the swinging arm pivot is threaded to 1/2 inch fine thread. So you need to have an extractor to pull it out. So I made one up. It's really simple. It's a piece of tube. This size just goes around there. 1/2 inch bolt goes in the end. Just stuck something in my finger. Hang on a second. There we go. Alright. So then you have a bolt that goes in. The end of the bolt screws into there. like so. Then you hold your bolt and thread the nut down the bolt, and of course that pushes the bolt out, and the bolt is screwed into the centerpiece, so it pulls the centerpiece out. Or at least that is the plan. Well, as I say, I started doing this, so where are we? Unscrew it. Of course, this thing hasn't been out for years. The end cover, what have you, was missing, so the chances are it has had oil in it for a long time, because as soon as you take that off, it tells you in the book to put a tray underneath. Getting a bit easier. I've ordered new bushes for this. Anyway, you've got the hang of this. As I say, it's old and seized in, so let me pull it out and then I'll show you it once it's out. And there it is. You can see the little holes for the oil to go through, and can you see that? The threaded end for the extractor bolt, and you can also see the rust on it. No wonder it took some pulling out. Okay, let me finish stripping this. So here we are, upside down and no hernia. So put that on, and then I noticed there's even a plug that goes in the front. So I put the centre one on, put my little bung in here, and as you can see, well, actually it's almost touching this, so cutting a piece out of that there wouldn't do me a lot of good in that respect. So what the hell do we do with it? Now then, I can put it sideways a bit, but then we're touching this, so I think, see, if I make my splay here, come down to about here and split, then see, I'm ooh. Oh dear. I wonder how they do those 3-to-1s on these. I guess they must just go really low at the, you know, ground clearance in the middle doesn't matter, but whew. Okay, time for a cup of tea, and I think I could definitely split it there, but where I'll take it then, see, don't forget here, I can't put too much sticking out because of the mudguard. You know, the mudguard's going to go up and down like that. So I don't really, that's a good line, to be honest. Inside that, I think will be fine, but how I'm going to get that, I might have to come down and go out. Anyway, as I say, cup of tea and I think, and then I'll bring you back. Now, I've had my cup of tea and some ginger biscuits. Just looked at the video I did, noticed I say "so" an awful lot. While I was supping, I've been looking at pictures of frames, and BSA duplex frame doesn't have a cross tube, just uses the engine mounting, which of course is about here. Ours is here. Featherbed frame has one there. The Rickman frames, it's up here, which I found interesting. But this is just slightly awkward. What I was thinking I might do I think I'm definitely going to cut it out because it's just really in the wrong place, is I might, you can see this is curved, I might get another piece and just put it back here with a bit more of a curve so the pipe clears it. But whatever, I'm going to cut this out. Now, can't come straight all the way down here because I'm going to hit this. So as I say, that's why I'm thinking of taking this out, because I think this is where, whichever way I go, split into two or just go into one, I'm going to be wanting to come in here somewhere. Even if it's at the side, that's just right in the way. So I'm going to cut that off. And I've been looking, if I do put a split there, I could maybe do something like that. Actually, probably just join in there. But anyway, first things first. There was one thing actually, the rev counter drive just slips past there, but I was thinking of taking a little scallop out just to ease it. So what I might do is, when I take that scallop out, I might put a cross piece here. Already got one there for the horn, so we're strengthening up this part. I don't know. And of course, I'm going to do this before I get a chance to see any comments. Anyway, let's take this out and then we can see how much more space we've got as to whether we're going to go to two or whether we go to one. See, I could do this the way the original bike is, which was to go to one there like that and then to put a piece across here. Now I could do that, you see, I could put a couple of 45s in there, go across the top. That actually is probably the best thing to do, because that duplicates the original exhaust, which some Japanese chap with a degree in engineering came up with. And of course it means I don't have to split this. It means I've only got one piece to do there, and this would be, I think, quite easy to do, because I could make this, see, this gets wider, I could make this and slide it along, you know, scallop these, slide it along until it fits in, and then mark the tubes and cut them. That would make that quite an easy job. Well, quite an easy job, but that would make that doable. And as you can see, I'm already in a position, I was thinking of this was my original plan, that's why I didn't put a piece in there. So let me cut this out and you sit and think about this. Right, I think I've got it sorted. Cut the piece out of there, which funny enough might go back in just a little higher up, or certainly if I get a piece with a bit more curve I can fit it in there. Right, I looked at the pictures of the XS750 and I found I'd been making things difficult for myself because I'd been trying to make the pipe sort of on the centre line. And in actual fact, on the original bike they all split out. This one comes this side and these two run parallel. That's how they miss this. So what I'm going to do is, you can see I've put a longish piece on there. That'll get cut off short, set back. And then I'm going to get two 45s and put them on there like that with a cross piece. I can actually bring it right up to here, something like that. Maybe just keep it back there so you can get a disc drain plug as well. Then, let's say this piece is going to be relatively easy to make. When that's in, this piece is going to come up. Let me take that out because it's blocking you a bit, isn't it? That piece will come up, and here, instead of trying to make some clever joint, because I want the gas to go in at an angle. I don't want to just turn it into that pipe. I'm going to do again what they did on the original Yamaha, which was where these two met, they were just sort of boxed in with some 16th or whatever stainless steel sheet. Well, there it was all chromed, but we'll do it with stainless sheet. So when I've got that fitted there, I'll cut this out so there's a nice hole for that to be aimed at. Then I don't have to worry about making clever joints. I'll just bring the other pipe up to here and then we'll box it all in. And that way I think it'll nicely come off in one piece. I'm going to be able to, that's another thing I suppose, I'm going to be able to get the plugs, because you would have had to take the exhaust off to get that plug out. I don't honestly see the purpose of that plug. It's not at the bottom. If you're going to drain the oil filter, you drain it here. Whatever. So that's what I'm going to do. Straight piece, 45 to bring me round to here, just and stop short. Weld this piece, make this piece up first, put that in, and I think I've got an 1.5 inch hole saw, so I can just, when I've drawn on where I want it, I can just mark it and zip, and all go together. So I'm going to have to cut a little piece to go in there first, tack all that in, then we'll make this. So let me get on. I've cut the little piece for there, it was 1 inch. I haven't tacked it in yet because I didn't want to take everything off until I'd measured for this. So I cut this, as I say, we put it down here and we can slide it up, and that goes in there like that. Next thing to do is to bring this up to hit it right in that corner. I wonder if I could get clever enough to make a joint. Anyway, we'll see. What we can always do is try to make a double angle joint in there, and if it doesn't work, I can just cut the end off and, as I say, make a little box around it. But there we go. I think that's going to work, don't you? Hey, I'm half pleased with that, particularly these. I used luckily here, they were perfectly flat. I could lay those down. So I used the 1.5 inch hole saw to create the right thing there. Very nice. So that will all weld together. I'll take this off and do this, and then I'll mark these and we'll weld that in there. I've welded this piece in. Just give it a little quick sand up. So now the next thing is this. So I'm going to draw around these, and you may notice I've put a little mark there. There's one on both sides. They're sort of on the centre line of that, so that when I've drawn this round, I can join those two up, and that'll give me where to drill. So there's that. I'll hopefully, if I use the 1.5 inch hole saw, and I know where the centre line is, I should, actually I should put one for there as well. I should get a nice hole to put them in, so I'm going to put one there as well, so I know where that is. Okay, so there's our hole. Centre line, and look in the centre, does it? Actually, I could have measured that, couldn't I, to find that, but never mind. 3/4, 3/4, yeah. So I'll get the, I think I can do these in situ actually. Drill that in there, drill in here with the hole cutter, and we'll see how they come out. And if they don't come out right, I'll burst into tears. I've cut the 2 holes here, and I'll be perfectly honest with you, I made a bit of a mess of them. I didn't cut the holes quite at the right angle, so although you can't see it from your side, although the tops fit pretty well because I've worked them out with a little grinder, the bottom parts aren't so hot. I'm going to have to do a little bit of remedial welding and grinding down there. But anyway, what I'm going to do now is clean all this up, paint my stuff on, and I can weld these both sides a good halfway around, which will make it all nice and strong. Then I can take the whole thing off, and as I say, we'll fix the back part of it. For a moment there, I thought I'd made such a mess of it that the pipes were scrap. When you definitely would have seen me in tears then. But as it is, I can reclaim it. So let me clean this up and weld these, and then we'll look about how this other piece is going to go into there. I welded the cross piece in, and as I mentioned, the bottom, there was a gap at the bottom on both sides. This one I sort of filled in. This one I put a piece in, but I'm going to be putting a hole there, sorry, there, for the other pipe, so I wasn't worried about that. But as I built this, because there are about 20 pieces in it, what I haven't done is tack welded it all together and then taken it off and welded it, because I was aware that if there's 20 pieces, there's 30 welds altogether maybe. If each weld just distorted a fraction, then when I welded it all up, it wouldn't go back on. So what I did was I did each piece, I tacked it or marked it, welded it completely, put it back on the bike, did the next piece, welded that on, did the next bend, and so on. So I was somewhat shocked when, after only just doing this weld, and you may remember I was able to weld halfway around on each side with it in situ. It doesn't go anywhere near to fitting on. Whether it was that one biggish weld here that's contracted, and because it's long pieces, of course, doesn't take much of a contraction here to make this, 2 feet away, move a lot. So at first I was heartbroken, but fortunately it's this one piece, it's under the bike. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut this, put the 2 halves back on, make sure we do this bit right, and then when everything's finished we'll do a repair in the centre. I was surprised that the back ends must be, but if I put that back end in there, I'm half a pipe width, 3/4 of an inch it's pulled in. Unbelievable. So let me saw this in 2, and then we'll put it back on and we'll see about making this piece. Now the other thing I noticed was it didn't come off that easily, and that was without the 3rd pipe. So I might have to rethink that a little bit. What I might have to do actually is make this go into a sleeve, have a sleeve welded on here, that I can put this pipe on separately and clamp it up at the bottom. But we'll see as we go along. What I might be able to do with that is make it, and if it won't fit on, then I can just cut it and put a sleeve on. We'll see. So anyway, let me cut this and put it all back on. Now I've got your handheld because I just don't believe this. Maybe somebody can explain it to me. I have bolted this on so that I haven't moved the silencers. So the silencers exactly where they were. Gone into the silencers, both sides, bolted up there. Look at that. I haven't cut a piece out. I just cut it in two. See that gap? It's out of line. I have no idea what's going on. A twist, yes, but anyway, this should bring some comments in. So let's get stuck in and try and do the third piece. Now I've welded in the piece for the centre cylinder. I know where that's come, and I've put that so that it's not touching the frame, and should just about be able to get that off with the exhaust in situ. So that's keeping those roughly parallel. So I wanted to join into here. And my apologies for having the heater noise on, but it was 14 degrees Fahrenheit this morning here, which is minus 10 centigrade. So it's a bit nippy. Now I've just been looking at this, and what I'm going to do with, I did 2 complete pipes and never had any problem with the welds where the tube was end to end like that. But as soon as I've made a T, I've obviously, as I said, made a complete pig's ear of it. So I'm not even going to try anything clever here. Yep, I'm chickening out, but I haven't got round to being any good at this yet. So what I'm going to do is put a piece in like that, so we get a pretty good gas flow. But all that's going to be done is literally welded there, and then here, as I say, I'm going to make a piece, virtually a triangle, out of sheet stainless, 16th inch. And what I'm going to do also is I'm going to start at this end, because I don't think there's going to be any problem welding that to there and it's staying where it should be, and welding the next piece on and that's staying where it should be, and welding that to that. But I'm worried about the welds here. So if I do that piece first, then I can make this up from there and feel pretty certain it's not going to move much between marking, tacking and final welding. Again, if I do it one piece at a time. The other thing is, I don't want to risk cutting a round hole here, because as I say, you went completely wrong there. So we'll just put that. I'm going to work this out how it should be. Actually, when I put those two like that, 245s, I can get them so they're virtually pointing at each other with parallel faces. So I'll cut a little piece to go in and use some tape to mark it, to stick it all together, and then I can mark here, and then I can just, I'm literally going to cut like that, and then that way I'll get a piece of plate, it'll go on, it'll go across the tube, and what I'll do is I'll put the first piece on, I'll put that there, know where it is, I'll bring the welder through here so that I can weld it in there and weld it in there and hold it. And then I'll make this piece up and I'll tack it on here. Then I'll take the pipes off and I'll tack it on the other side. Then I'll put them back on and make sure we're still pointing in the right place. Then I'll weld it up completely, and I'm going to do it sort of in a couple of bits to try and minimize any distortion from the weld pulling one way or the other. And then when that's all on nice and firm, put it back on the bike and we'll do this bit. So let's start by putting these on, measuring the gap, cutting a little piece of straight, taping it all together and seeing if that will work. Because actually I've got to go out to get some of this sheet. I don't have any 16 gauge stainless. Now this I think will work. I've got a 45 and a 45 and a piece in here which is just slightly angled at the ends, but under here doesn't matter if it's not a perfect curve. I've put this piece of cardboard on because I found when I was trying to get this right, I'd get it right and it'd be up above here, you know, there'd be a bit of the hole showing. So this keeps me in line with these two. So after doing that, getting all that right, what I then did was I extended this to have some cutaways like that. So we'll cut a piece of the stainless steel and that's going to go on there like that. It'll weld into there, it'll weld round this pipe, weld round that one, weld round that one, and a piece on the back. And then we'll have a nice even flow, or we should do anyway. So as I say, I'm going to start from this end. I'm going to cut this piece of plate. Well, what I'll do is while that's all together, I'll bring the welder over and I'm going to get that welded in down there. Well, no, I'm getting ahead of myself again because I don't have a hole in. So what I'm going to do first is cut my hole in here. I'll mark it out right. I should be able to do it just ka-chunk, ka-chunk, I think, like that. Doesn't matter if it's, as long as it's not raggedy or anything, but I mean, it doesn't matter that it isn't nice and round because we're gonna make a collection box in effect. So I'll mark that, take this off so that I can get it, cut that hole, and then I'll put it back on and weld both sides there to hold that in, to tack it. Then I can take that apart. Then I'll put this in and same thing, tack, 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 tack. Then we'll take it off, put the piece on the back, tack, tack, put it back on here, and if it's all right then we'll weld it up. Then we'll start welding these from there, that one being the final weld. Actually, I might make one of these the final welds because I want that to be a good curve, so I'll weld that one on there, and then if that needs to be slightly angled or eased into there, I can do it, and it doesn't matter about the weld there, it's out of sight, or even this very back one, it's out of sight. So let me take this apart and cut some holes and then we'll come back. Now, there's our hole. Looks a bit cavernous, but don't worry. Put them back on with their little lines lining up and we're good. And as I say, don't worry about that because that is going to go in there like that. And that actually pushes down a little. See, it covers that hole there. All goes down. That'll be nice. Righty-ho, mustn't lose that. That's a vital template because it actually fits. So the next thing for me to do is to tack that there and there. Then cut my piece of plate from that. Anyway, why am I telling you all this? I'll show you what's going on. Now I've tacked this in place and everything's still basically lined up. I got some 16 gauge stainless steel sheet, 304, the same grade as these, and that you can see I've made it to go around all three pipes. That is going to go in there like that. So we're going to tack this several places, make sure everything's still alright. Then I'll take it off and make the other side. We'll tack that in. I know I'm repeating myself here, but it keeps me right. We'll tack that in and try it on, and then we'll weld it up and put it back on. So let me tack this up. I've put this piece on. First of all, I tacked it. Now I've done a couple of little, sort of about 1/2 inches of weld. And as you can see, it's started to pull this way a little bit. So what I'm going to do now is take this off, make the other side and tack and do a couple of little welds just to pull it back. Then we'll try it. I'm going to do it backwards and forwards because I want it to come out right in one go. So let me take this off and make the piece for the back.
Now I've cut another template for this side, and from it made a piece to go in there like that. So this I'll tack, 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 tack. So let me weld all this up, then we can offer this back to the bike and start doing the little straight bit and the curve that's going to join it to the middle exhaust pipe. And while we're here, I don't know if you can still hear it in my voice, the reason you had to wait a long time for this video was because between the last sequence and this sequence, I don't think I've left the house for about 8 days. I don't know whether it's because I'm getting old, but I had a cold that just wouldn't let go. I felt like, well, I didn't feel too bad, I just was completely drained. Sinus headache, coughing, stuff like that. So just in case you were wondering why it was, it's like 3 weeks since the last video. We were almost ready a while ago and then I got the smit. So anyway, let me weld this up and then we'll come back. There it is, all welded up. Not maybe the prettiest of things, but my stainless steel welding's getting better. Alright, let's go and put it on and see how much these have moved, if anything. Keep your fingers crossed. Well, I know one thing for sure. I'm never going to make another multi-cylinder exhaust system. Here's the pieces we had, look. I'm trying to get in front of you. Let me go around the other side. First thing anyway, it's gone further into the silencer. So something happened. And then look at that now. Well, you've made some very nice comments to me over the last couple of years, but this is a complete pig's ear. Fortunately, where is it? There it is. It's pulled it round so that, this is really amazing me, that will go with, where are we? Hang on, I just had this and it was almost right. Yeah, it's not that far out. I think I can do it with a long 45 and a short 45, maybe. Anyway, as I say, we all have feet of clay. Cup of tea, and then we'll look at that. Well, I salvaged a little bit of the pipe that I decided not to use here because it had a bit of a curve in it. Doing a tiny little bit of filing at a time. There we go. Oops. It's not perfect, but then we didn't expect it to be at this stage, did we? But it's might take a tiny little bit more off. It basically touches all the way around, so I'll be able to put that in, and then that should be okay. I want to show you something inside of this, so let me zoom you in. I hope you can see this alright, but what I'm trying to show you is where I've cut it. There's the inside weld. And for those of you that were a bit dubious about that flux, I haven't polished that or anything. I just wiped it with a cloth, and look, we've got a nice shiny weld inside. There's none of that nasty black, what do they call it, brown sugar. Why they call it brown sugar, I don't know, because it's very dark grey. But that flux really did protect the back of the weld. So there you go. Anybody that's wanting to do some stainless tube welding and doesn't want to go to all the trouble of back purging, this stuff works. So okay, a couple of final bits of filing. I think I've got to take a tiny bit off there just for it to drop in better. And what I'm going to do with this is tack this in situ. I should be able to get over tacks basically all the way around, and then we'll take it off, weld it up, keep our fingers crossed, and hopefully it'll all go back on the way it came off. Then let me just swoop you up a little bit. I had a brainwave about this. Checked at the suppliers, and you can get, which I knew but I'd forgotten about it, you can get flexible pieces of stainless steel, and I can get 1.5 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this off back here somewhere and get a flexible piece. You can get ones that you weld on, and you can get ones that are sort of slip fit that I can put a clip on. So I'll get a flexible piece that's say this long, and then what I can do, let's say I cut it off there, get it from there to there, is put this side on, put the flexible piece on, and slide it right to here. Then I can put the other side on, slide that back, and a little bit will be taken up, fasten my clamps up, and we're done. So let me get this first bit finished. Okie doke. There it is, welded in. So it's all completely welded now, there's no more welding to do on it, so this should be its final shape. That will go on. Come on now boys, go in your little holes. There we go. I wonder what the hell was going on there. That goes on there, goes on there, goes on there. Taking the silencer off because I thought I was tempting fate trying to hit all 3 holes at the same time. And of course we've got a little bit of fudge factor at the silencer mounting. But this is the important thing, of course, to make sure these go in, and that when they're in and tightened up, this isn't touching the frame, isn't touching the engine. I want to make sure it's tightened up properly, because as I've mentioned before, just the least little bit can throw you off. You think you've got it nicely all finger tight or just pressed in, but then when you actually tighten everything up, stuff can move a lot. There we go. So these few moments of waiting are minor when you consider what we've gone through with this. I must get myself some of those Allen keys with the little ball ends on them, so you can get them in at an angle. At least to get things tight enough until you put a proper Allen key on, or an Allen wrench as it is here. Alright. That's tight. Oh dear. See, I've still got the sniffles. Oh, and Linda, my wife, of course, now is starting to come down with the cold. Right, well, they seem to be on tight. We're not touching the frame anywhere. We're not touching this filter. It's not a long way off, but we're not touching it. And here is our silencer. Maybe ease that out a little bit, or slightly move this mounting in. But that's on. Everything's still missing. Everything's tight. And as I say, we're going to put a flexible one in there, so that doesn't matter. But that important thing that we could get this on, can even get it on with the flanges on, which is nice. That makes even less fiddling around when we put it on finally. So that's that. You'll see the flexi bit when we finally put the pipe on. So a little bit of sanding and polishing to do where the welds were, but that's not too shabby. I always said this was going to be the worst part of the build, and I was right. Certainly for me anyway. Okay, now that that's done, I can, excuse me, sniff sniff. Oh, just for effect there. Alright, what was I saying? Right, now that the pipes are done, I can take them off, take the engine out. All these little things on here that I've welded, well, tack welded, I can weld it properly. Don't forget I've still got to put that brace in behind there, work that out. But then I'll be sending the frame off to get it sandblasted. By the way, if any of you have problems finding somebody who does sandblasting, go to your local monumental mason. Because nowadays, they don't chisel the letters in. They put a template on and they sandblast them. The sandblasting's a little rough. I wouldn't advise doing any sheet metal with it, but for frames it produces a really nice key, and generally these fellas are cheap. My chap, to father and son, they sort of have 1 day a week when they're not working on monuments and it's their cash only day. You turn up that day, they'll do the job for a very reasonable price, and you get it done straight away. So anyway, that's the next step. Take all this out, paint. Oh, speaking of paint, would you like to see the colours I've chosen? The paint? There it is, look, that colour and that colour. Right, so I'm done for the day. I'm just about done altogether actually. So I'll stop blathering it on and I'll let you go off and enjoy yourselves.